what lady?
Louis' sister.
Okay. Coming here?
Yeah, I've got some Peter Boy from Baldus. And I got some candies.
Hi.
Hi. Right here. I'll be right there. Okay.
I'll turn the song on.
You don't remember Jeff?
How you doing, man?
Nice to meet you. What's your name, Joe? John. John's sister.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I've got a King. Thanks to the Lord, our God and King. His love endures forever. For He is good, He is above all things. His love endures forever. Sing praise, sing praise. The mighty hand and outstretched arm. His love endures forever. For the life that's been reborn. His love endures forever. Sing praise, sing praise, sing praise, sing praise. Forever God is faithful. Forever God is strong. Forever God is with us. Forever, from the rising to the setting sun. His love endures forever. And by the grace of God, we will carry on. His love endures forever. Sing praise, sing praise, sing praise, sing love endures forever. Sing. His love endures forever. His love endures forever. His love endures forever. Sing from your heart. His love endures forever. His love endures forever. His love endures Now all the ladies say, give thanks to the Lord. Now again.
I had a vision last night,
Okay.
and the vision was seemed like we remodeled the church on the inside.
Okay.
But we didn't have these lights.
Okay.
They were like chandeliers.
Like Baptist ones?
Yeah, like chandeliers. You're hanging down.
Like the ones in a Baptist church, they have their.
Yeah, but this when they were coming down, they were like gold.
Okay.
The chandeliers, they were all gold, and I'm saying, wow. And then I just woke up.
What do you think it means?
And then I just got just like, okay, God, what are you doing all this? And I know when I came in here, I looked at what it was different. And I remember the chandelier. We didn't have these lights. They were just golden chandeliers that were just hanging down.
Uh-huh.
That's all I can remember.
You've been reading that book.
What book?
The book that I let you.
Drinking the Father?
Yeah. Is that in your purse right now?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see that. I'm gonna give it right back.
That's all right. Ashley took the book yesterday. Put the book down, Miss Judy.
So what are you seeing in here? What's God saying to you in here?
The more you read, the more. I read that book before, a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I know I have it in storage. But I keep, the more you read, the more you'll see yourself. And the more you're going to examine yourself. And then I thought about what you say, because I have a habit of beating up myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I try not to. But one thing I found out, when you make a mistake, and you correct that mistake, and you realize, you ask for forgiveness, but you still feel that people still don't. I don't know how to say this. I don't think they really forgive you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can tell by the action.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not easy. It's going through the fire and realizing that the closer you get to God, even in that book, you're examining yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And in that book, you see what you're really all about, and you correct it, but people don't realize that when you spend that quiet time with the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest thing about this, like, it says common demon groupings, bitterness, and then under bitterness is resentment, hatred, unforgiveness, violence, temper, anger, retaliation, and murder. You know, when I read this book, I really start to think, when I was going through this book, and I used to look at it a lot, actually. And when I was going through it, what was interesting to me is just the ability to identify the root. And that's the one thing that people don't think about and realize how deep the Lord is. How much of our soul, how much of our outward life we give, that we're looking at. I mean, I don't think people realize, and we're not, sometimes we don't discern correctly how people get from unforgiveness and bitterness to murder. And so murderers go on trial before the world, and we ridicule them and mock them. We're just like, oh, how could they do that? How could they be so heartless? Well, I mean, it started here, you know, and then all of a sudden it grew. And what God has always shown me is, you know, we are all human. We all have this you know, flesh nature. It's the same flesh nature as the next person. But we judge people. And we don't realize we're the same. You know, just some of these roots we haven't allowed in our lives, some we have, and others, you know, that have had different life circumstances, they've given in to, you know, like what's this other one? Worry, anxiety, fear, dread, apprehension, nervousness, tension, headache, nervous habits, restlessness, excitement, insomnia, roving. Remember that guy had? Yeah, remember that? Yeah. Well, remember that guy had come over to my house? You might not remember it, but he actually roved. Like, he would stand up all day and just pace. And Raina and I invited him into our house to try to help him, and try to minister to him, and he was not getting the help he needed. We eventually had to tell him to go. Yeah, so this is a good book. It's just really interesting. You know, it talks about the devil's plan. You know, he builds a kingdom, and most of the time that kingdom starts with rejection, because the ultimate root of all of Satan's plans is rejection from the Father.
And being accepted
Making us feel rejected
by others. And we go through that without realizing that. Because it began from a child.
Yeah, and now where I think we miss it sometimes with those teachings is the fact that Jesus can save. And only Jesus can save. So a lot of people, they focus on those books, that book there, and it becomes their religion. This is what we're going to do. This is going to be our church. This is going to be what we do. And you don't realize that the Lord is the one that saves, and you have to be led by the Spirit. So anyway, it's a good book. It's been a while since I've looked at it, but you know, before, you know, while I was back there worshiping, I just felt like the Lord said, this is going to be a season of deliverance for us. Again, where things are going to fall off, things are going to be resolved. We're going to get a lot more sure footing in the things of God, where we don't have to wonder, you know, am I accepted? Am I not accepted? God's going to make our faith, our assurance more, you know, prevalent to us. Because we're going to need that assurance. We're going to need that foundation. We're going to need that confidence going into the next season.
And it's kind of, it's not scary, but it's kind of, I really want to go. It's, when you've never been into something, now you're going into something new. It's like going into a new school and you're a new student.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and people don't understand that you just want to be part of the situation. But then you have to also realize in life, is that what God wants?
Yeah, so along that line,
Mm.
Romans 8, there is therefore now no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus, who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit.
Put the Amplified.
No, this is King James, or New King James. For the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus has made me free from the law of sin and death. For what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, God did by sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh on account of sin. He condemned sin in the flesh, that the righteous requirement of the law might be fulfilled in us who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
For those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. One of the things God showed me, and this leads to something very important. It's a foundation for verse. Let's see here. Where is this? So verse 15. Everything I'm reading up to verse 15, which I'm in verse 5, is a foundation to verse 15, which goes back to the rejection part that we were just talking about. The biggest enemy, but his core strategy is rejection. If he can make us feel rejected, and we don't have that confidence in the Father, every single evil work and plan of the enemy is carried out through that route.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. Romans talks about it. The righteous requirement of the law of fulfilled is to do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. But those who live according to the flesh set their minds on things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. And God told me on Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
I've always asked God, I've always tried to figure out a way to live this verse. To focus on the things of the Spirit. Now I gotta take care of my family and do my job and do all these other things, but I always have cried out to God to help me understand how to sow to the Spirit, how to keep my mind on things of the Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And on Sunday, God told me, He said, I'm now going to teach you how to control your mind. Which is what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
One of the fruits of the Spirit, self-control. It's all here.
It's all in the mind.
It's all in the mind. And God's going to teach us in this season
Ooh,
how to control our mind. That's the core issue. Because what happens is our mind goes to worry.
Mm-hmm.
Our mind goes to being rejected. Our mind goes to these places, and then all of a sudden, as a man thinks,
So is he.
so is he. So God's going to start to teach us how to deal with our mind and control our mind and keep our thoughts steady and peaceful, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not so much keeping our mind just focused on the Spirit, like, hey, I'm going to be focused on the Spirit, I'm going to be focused on the Spirit. One of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard is there was this guy quoting some minister or some monk,
Mm-hmm.
and he just spent all day, he would breathe in and say, Jesus, breathe out and say, have mercy on me. Why? Because he took the verse literal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep my mind fixed on the things of the Spirit. I think it's less about trying to find some way to force your mind to think about God, and it's more about controlling your mind not to think about carnal things.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be at work, and you know what most people think about at work? I'm not good enough. This person doesn't like me. I'm scared of losing my job. I'm scared of not making enough money. I'm scared I won't do a good job on this assignment that my boss gave me. I'm scared my boss doesn't like me. I'm scared my peers don't like me. That's what people are thinking about.
It is bad.
Most people don't sit there and think about, man, I'm just going to make all this money. Carnally. Most people are sitting there thinking about how they're going to be rejected, how they're going to feel, how are others going to feel. That's the carnal side of it. So what God's going to start to teach us how to do is He's going to teach us how to not allow our mind to go to those places of rejection, fear, anxiety, worry, doubt, unbelief. Those are the thoughts that are filling our minds and attacking our minds, and that our minds are used to thinking because our fleshly nature is shameful and guilty. And so God is saying to me, and He said this to me on Sunday, and now I'm saying it here because I think I've learned this. I go ahead and assume, and God has told me, anything He will do for me, He'll do it for everybody. And as God tells me He's going to do something for me, He's going to do it for everybody. It's not just me. I learned that a while ago. Because God's called me a prophet. He's told me, here's my secret, but my job is to make sure it's not a secret anymore. Because it's for everybody. God's blessing is for everybody. I'm just here to interpret what God's going to do. So God's going to start to give us this power and understanding over our mind, and what does it mean to be carnally minded? Carnally minded is not just thinking about sinning. Sin is a result of the carnal mind. Because we feel rejected, we pursue unhealthy relationships and we sin. That's the carnal side of it. That's the carnal mind isn't sitting there thinking about sin. The carnal mind's thinking about how rejected you feel, how inadequate you feel, how fearful you are. And as a reaction to that fear, that rejection, that doubt, that unbelief, you commit sin to try to compensate. So God's going to start to, and that's the thing about, that's the part that the church doesn't understand right now. The carnal mind. We look at somebody, oh, he's a carnal Christian. We don't know, and we judge people. We don't understand or empathize that they're not sitting there dreaming up ways to sin. They're reacting to the rejection, the fear, the unbelief, the doubt, the fear. All of those things that are running through these people's mind, what they do is a result of that. So instead of condemning somebody, judging somebody, ostracizing somebody, kicking somebody out, we should empathize with them. Because their actual actions are a result of being so consumed with their carnal mind. Their carnal mind isn't, the nature of it is caused by all of these attacks. The only place that we can find relief is further on in the verses here in Romans chapter 8. There's never a time, here's the thing I'm tired of. There's never a time in the gospel where we're supposed to pull ourselves up with our bootstraps and in our own strength not sin or be holy. Our job is to surrender to the Father, to understand and receive His love, and through that process, He cleanses our mind from all of these agitating passions, these fears, these doubts, the confidence that rises up inside of us. What it does is it removes the root of sin, because we no longer need to sin to compensate, because we are fully received and loved by the Father. That's the gospel. That's what Jesus came. That is why Jesus didn't sin. That's why He didn't sin. He knew the Father. He felt He was completely connected to God. He completely was consumed by His Father's love. He had confidence in His Father. His Father had confidence in Him. That voice came from heaven. This is my Son with whom I am well pleased. And all of a sudden that confidence rose up within him. This is why Paul said, this is the meaning of his verse. If God be for us, who'd be against us?
That's it. Get that. Oh, that's the whole thing.
That's the whole thing. We have no enemies except for our mind. That's our enemy. And what's in our mind? Again, fear, unbelief, anxiety, worry. Jealous and malice. All of this stuff comes about because of the root. And the root cause is rejection. That's the root cause. We feel rejected, and our reaction to that rejection, is unbelief. And with that unbelief, it starts to spin a web. The result of all of these things is sin. The sin is the compensation to try to make up for that feeling of rejection. Because whether people like it or not, we were built to be in fellowship and in union with God. And when that is missing, when we have no confidence in that, when we don't believe that, when our faith is not there, all sin comes from that place. The fall of man, the shame, the guilt, all of that starts to creep in, unfortunately. On account of sin, he condemns sin in the flesh, that the righteous requirement of the law might be fulfilled in us who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. For those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace, because the carnal mind is an enmity against God. How can that be? The carnal mind is an enmity against God. The carnal mind is an enmity against God because God's message to us is, I love you, I accept you, I created you to be with me, I receive you, you can do this, I have made you perfect, I have made you holy. Our carnal mind says, you're not holy, you're dirty, you're disgusting, you should be ashamed, you're guilty, you're no good, you're inadequate, nobody loves you, you're weird.
I'm up here and you're not.
Exactly. So that's what's at enmity with God. We don't believe the Father. We don't believe in His love for us. That's what's in enmity with God. God says, I sent my only Son, who was God, to get so close to you that He became like you, hung on a cross, died a gruesome death, rose from the dead, defeated all the darkness. I release my Spirit upon you. What does that Spirit say? We're about to get there. It says, Abba, Father. What's the Spirit's message? I'm connected to God. I believe in God. God believes in me. What does the Spirit say? Abba. The most intimate name for the Father that you can have. But again, like I was saying before, we don't have a picture of the Father because of our society. But that's no excuse. God's word is true. His invitation through Jesus is true. His Spirit is true. As a matter of fact, you can't worship Him unless you worship Him in truth. So what are we doing in the church today? I don't know sometimes. Because the carnal mind is enmity with God. So then, those who are in the flesh cannot please God. But you are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit, if indeed the Spirit of God dwells in you. Now, if anyone does not have the Spirit of Christ, he is not his. And if Christ is in you, the body is dead because of sin. But the Spirit is life because of righteousness. But if the Spirit of Him who raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you, He who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies through His Spirit who dwells in you. Therefore, brethren, we are debtors, not to the flesh, to live according to the flesh. For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you will live. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, these are the sons of God. For you did not receive the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you received the Spirit of adoption, by whom we cry out, Abba, Father. The Spirit himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God. And if we are children, then heirs. Heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ. If indeed we suffer with him, that we also may be glorified together. So praise God. The fact that we have this position with God that we have not fully taken advantage of to understand and appreciate. God's going to bring this revelation of the Father in so strong that it consumes all of the things that are going on in our mind all the time. That's where the battle is. It's in the mind. And all the sin in the world and the darkness is a result of that carnal mind, that carnal mindset. The carnal mindset, more clearly defined, is you're not good enough, you're rejected, nobody loves you, God doesn't love you, God isn't real because he's not proving himself to you. I mean, all these questionable feelings that we entertain when the Spirit's message, God's message, which is at enmity with that message, at odds with that message, is you are loved. I sent my Son for you. I accept you. I have made you holy. I've made you blameless. I've made you perfect. Now God's going to start to reveal this in a better way to us so we can move forward.
Yes, we can.
We can't move forward until we get this down. And so Romans 8, 6, 7, and 8, I've been reading that a little bit. Well, I think I read it a little bit last week.
You did.
And that's what it means to be a son. We don't know what it means to be a father, or what a father looks like, and we don't know what it means to be a son and what a son looks like. That's missing. You know, the marriages are messed up. And God showed me that.
It is.
But a lot of the reason the marriages are messed up is because the church is messed up. Well, the church is messed up because the marriages are messed up. Well, guess what? Part of the reason the marriages are messed up and the church is messed up is because the whole father-son relationship is messed up. So God's going to restore this thing. He's going to put the image of Christ in the earth. What's the image of Christ? Well, he was a son of God. We forget about that. We just think about Christ. Well, yeah, he's Christ. He was out there doing all these miracles and stuff. No, but what was he first? He was a son.
And he was obedient.
He was an obedient son. Not just for obedience sake, but because of the love his father had for him, the acceptance, the safety, the relationship he had with his father. He was first a son. He aspired to be nothing more than a son. And we're out there aspiring to be some minister, some pastor, some evangelist, some missionary.
But see, this is the whole thing, like you say, once we know what love really is. He knew what love was for his father.
That's it.
There was no doubt.
And he wasn't trying to be anything.
And he wasn't trying to prove nothing.
Exactly.
And that's our problem, guilty sin. Trying to prove to be accepted, to be loved. And I had to repent, it's wrong.
It is
If
wrong.
you can't accept me the way I am, there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
It's a relationship that we need to have with each other, but we don't. Not in the body. Because people say, well, you know, but to know someone is just you know of that person, but you never spend time with that person. That person can have a bad day. You might say, oh, something wrong with that individual, but you will know there's something going on that there's something bothering her because you know me. And some days I'm good, but like today it was just like I felt like someone just took all my energy. And I couldn't shake it. I kept saying, God, what is it? Who am I interceding for so strongly? We go to McDonald's, one of the ministers looked at me and said, wow, I'm going to be praying for you. And I'm trying to say, I hope he saw what I needed. And I said, okay. Because I know the pastor. And it was just like getting my order at McDonald's, they messed it up 3 times. And I kept saying, God, what is it? Why am I feeling this way? This is not the way not me, this is not me. What's going on? I didn't dwell on it anymore, I just left it like that. But once we know what the love of the Father is, I'm just as guilty. We won't be trying to please man.
That's the whole thing. Jesus never at one point was trying to please man. Because he knew he was a son in a way that we don't understand. And the Father was a father to him in a way we don't understand, and we think it's too high and mighty for us to receive. We don't understand that love is. But the Spirit inside of us cries out, this is the truth. Abba, Father. And when we start to get that revelation and allow that to unfold and affect us in a positive way, we will get to a place in the Spirit with that confidence and that faith and that foundation and that sure footing that we'll be ready. We'll be ready for what's coming. But God's gonna reveal himself as Father so we can reveal ourselves as sons. Because Jesus is the first thing and the only thing that Jesus was focused on was being a son.
That's it.
The reason why he was focused on that is because of the love of the Father. 1 John says, in this is love. Not that you love God, but that God loved you.
That's it.
And from that place, the sonship is revealed in us and through us. And then all the trying to please man, the fears, the anxieties, the pedestals, the ministries, the titles, the trying tos, the doing something for God becomes doing something with God. The doing something in God's name is doing something because of God's name. It's a completely different plane of thinking. It's a completely different mentality. It's a completely different understanding that God's going to start to reveal to us into a place where the authority is so strong and so sure, like Rick was talking about. There's no guessing involved. I think God's saying this. No, Jesus waited 4 days. He said, this will not end in death. What do you mean? My Father just told me. He showed up. Father, I already heard you. But so that they may believe, for them, Lazarus come forth. Boom. It was for them to believe. Jesus already was a son. He already understood. This is where we're going. This is what God's going to do. And he's going to start to change our mind. Our minds are going to be renewed into a place of understanding that we haven't found before. I'm looking forward to it. That's really what God started to share with me our deliverance is here. God is inside of us, and He's going to begin to manifest Himself to us. He's going to begin to reveal Himself to us in a new way. But it's not a new way, because this is the way Jesus reacted. Everybody has the bracelet. What would Jesus do? Jesus would be a son. He was first the Son of God, but He was also a Son of man. But because He was the Son of God, and we are invited into that same relationship with the Father as a joint heir, as a child of God. And that's what I like about, when I look at my kids and they're growing up, they're not trying to do anything in their life. They're just trying to be children. They sit down, okay, Daddy's going to feed me. Okay, boom, here it is. Daddy, of course we have a house. Of course we're going to get food. Of course I'm going to get clothes. There's no thought anything different. And when we, as parents, when Raina and I provide those things, and we provide that blessing, and we shepherd them and pastor them, their confidence grows.
That looks like the day when I was taking out short. This is like Miss Judy. That's what I gotta go pay my car insurance. Okay, then I have to pay my. Well, where are we going now? I said, well, actually, I gotta go pay my cell phone. But okay, Miss Judy. And then we went to her. Then I said, well, we going to McDonald's. He got out and then he said something to me. No, we said pay my cell phone bill. So I got ready to pay it. And Ashley said, Miss Judy? I said, yes, Ashley. I love you. And I'm saying to myself, now, what are you up to? So I said, okay, Ashley. The guy started laughing, smiled and said, well, I said, Ashley, where are you? And I had to call him because I knew he was up to something. But it's like when I look at him, I see stuff. I ask God, for revelation. And like you said, it's true. When I took him to McDonald's, he was going to get something to eat. He knew that. He wasn't worried about nothing. And I said, well, why can't we be like that? Why can't we just focus on Him?
Yeah.
And I'm just as guilty, not on what you did to me last week, and you hurt my feelings last week, and you took. Once you repent, it's over with. It's done. It's time to move on.
Yeah, we're going to learn how to be sons, and God's going to give us control, self-control over our minds.
But it was just like a man was looking for an apartment, and I said, I know a couple of people. And I called this pastor. First thing he said, well, we having this man coming over and for dinner, and we getting all the people that need their minister license, and I'm saying to myself, I want to tell her that's not that important. So I just listened. I said, well, I'll just call and tell you I'm, man that need a place if you have because I know she used to have an apartment, a house. And I thought about that. I said, once people get rid of tradition, it'll be okay. I went to see my niece, and I guess she got upset with me because they had a women's conference this weekend. And she said, are you coming? And I thought about it. I said, no. I said, I got to spend time with the Lord. You just don't want to come? I said, no. I said, baby, that has nothing to do with that. I said, sometimes we just got to get away to seek the face of God and see what His plan is. It has nothing to do with y'all having your women's conference and 100 members in purpose. And That's not it. It's that I want my relationship with the Father to be real.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at me. I said, that's what, I ain't got time to play games. Ain't got time no more. This is serious. Too many people are losing their homes. And like you say, marriage. How many years, how long you been talking about marriage and love in this place?
Mm-hmm.
And a lady wrote on Facebook and was talking about marriage, and I sat there and I respond. I told her, I said, you know, I'm not married. I said, but I do pray for marriage couple. I see what's going on. I said, but it's the idea of getting a relationship with the Father. And I wrote and I say to her, I went to see that movie. I said, it's a good movie. I said, I recommend every couple, even single people, to go to it. And I said, my place as being single, not to tell a marriage couple about their relationship because only if God revealed it to me. I said, that's the problem is like a lot of us go to single people that I don't know nothing about it. But I just tell you, hey, I ain't gonna tell you to leave your husband.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my girlfriend on last Tuesday. And I told her, I talked to her last night, the one that we want to go with. And she listened. I said, no, get that relationship with the Father. I said, let him deal with you first. I said, 'cause that's what the enemy wants. I said, baby, he don't like marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, until you allow God to do a work in you and get rid of the hardening of your heart and look at him through the eyes of God, no matter what the situation is, I know God will fix it.
Mm-hmm.
I say, I know he will. I said, because I trust him that much. I said, I'm not going to tell you nothing wrong. I said, but don't you leave your house. I said, don't you leave. I said, 'cause that's what the enemy wants. You know, and it's, marriage is, it needs to be taught. The truth needs to be taught, even with the single people. It needs to be taught. We need to learn how to come together in unity. And I'm getting there. And not look at people like you say in, well, she ain't right, he ain't right. I deal with the women over there, a lot of people over there at that school, and I sit there and I listen to what they're saying, and it's encouraging me. And one lady that husband used to go to was a pastor of Spoken Word Ministry on 14th Street. And it's a code, and she talked about it. And I said to her the other day, I said, but you're going from church to church to church. You're not selling it. You need to find a place where you can go, that the word is being spoken. The truth is being spoken. I said, not something for you to say, well, I've been in this church this Sunday, and next Sunday I'm going to that church. I said, you're going to keep on wondering. I said, you have to make up in your mind, God, show me where I need to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she listened, and that was about it. And we laughed and came on here, but it's a lot going on out there. And I made up in my mind, since God forgiven me of judging people and this and that, I made up in my mind, I ain't not judging nobody. I ain't gonna say nothing about nobody. I ain't gonna talk about that church down the street or that church down the street or that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know their heart.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know their heart.
That's a lot, Judy, what you just shared. But at the end of the day, it's more simple. It's about the love of the Father, and it's about being His son.
And that's what, every time I think about it, the other night he gave me this song, It's Amazing Grace. And we sing sometime, and I just went on to sleep, and it just like the Father was just singing that all over me. And when I woke up, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to be late. But I'm so in love with him. I said, that's all I want.
Mm-hmm.
Even for my children. My son called me, he had a migraine for 2 days. And I said to him, I said, you're going to have to seek God. I said, because Ben had done that. I said, but you got to be watching what you eat, what you drink. And I said, it's nothing but your nerve and being anxious for nothing. And I said, son, everybody got bills. always gonna have guilt.
Mm-hmm.
But if you trust God, He'll direct you and tell you what to do, when to do it, and not to do it. I say, it's up to you. The choice is yours.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, I can't make you go to church anymore. I say, the Bible says train up a child. I've done that. I said, but the choice is yours, but I still love you. And once we keep telling people about love, and one young man, when I went to North Dakota, his grandmother was a pastor. And he says to me, how can I go to church? And how could a father loves me? And I've done all so wrong. And people don't realize he still loved them.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to tell them that, but it's like, wow. That opened my eyes, because when I see the homeless, the people that I know that knows me, and I speak to them, and I say to myself, you know, Lord, I'm just that much for being out there.
Yeah. I mean, that's it right there. It's, you shared a lot, and I think that the crux of it is, it's in the mind. People are carnally minded because they don't believe in God's love for them.
They don't.
They don't understand how it can be possible. And so that's what God's going to do with us.
What are you going to do that with me?
He's going to do it. I'm telling you, prophetically, God showed me.